In our last episode, I said that the main difference between a photo taken by a professional and by the average individual is that the pro is seeing the completed image in his or her mind even before they press the shutter release button, and in many cases before they even pick up the camera. So how does this play out in the real world? Well, let's take a real-world example from a shoot I did not long ago. While shooting in the staircase of a building, I noticed a nice large window that I thought would make a great source of backlight for Brandy, who is my model for the shoot. What I had in mind was to place Brandy in front of the window and let the light from the window wrap around her as a big soft source of light. I was thinking something along the lines of an ethereal or angelic look to the final image. So right away I have to solve a couple of potential problems. The first problem is the window's made up of two sliding panels, so there's extra window frames to deal with, along with the big center post of the main window frame. Obviously, I don't want it to look like this is growing out of Brandy's head. Also, I didn't want the fine details from outside the window to be too much of a distraction in the final image. The second issue is how to expose the image. With heavy backlighting, the meter on the average camera isn't going to cope very well because it's not really a situation the engineers who designed the camera had in mind. To show you what I mean, here's what my camera told me was the correct exposure for this image of Brandy. Well, as you can see, Brandy is underexposed quite badly, and there are a ton of distractions in the image, both outside the window and from the center post in the window frame. It's a pretty good capture of exactly what my eyes would have seen in the staircase at the time, but not exactly what one would call ethereal or angelic. You see, the camera engineers designed the camera's metering system for what you would call everyday situations, which usually means preserving the highlight details. This is to prevent overexposing images, especially on skin tones. Of course, for the final image I have in mind, some of the skin tones will need to be overexposed, so I have to set the camera in a way that ignores what the metering system is telling me. The first thing I'm going to do is set my meter so that it's only reading Brandy's skin tones on her face and completely ignore everything else in the scene. Then, because I know that's not going to be bright enough to get what I want, I'm actually going to bump up the exposure even more so that Brandy's skin tones start to bleach out a little bit, just very, very slightly. We take another picture. Now, this one is much better. Brandy's skin tones are being exposed more or less exactly the way I want them. Also, most of the distracting elements of the photo have been eliminated by being overexposed out of the image entirely. I can't even recover that detail. It's basically gone to pure white, which is exactly what I want. But since most of the way is not a finished job, we're going to use post-processing to get this image to exactly where we want it to be. And in part 3, we're going to do exactly that.